my good and dear friends. This is Londo Molare, and I'm watching the Bad News Bards on Tennessee Tabletop Tavern. Have I ever told you you're very cute for a Mambare?
Happy Sunday. Your mic is not on. Yeah, how's it going? Yeah.
I muted myself.
There you go. Good job, buddy.
God. You'd think after 29 episodes plus a bunch of other stuff, I'd already be old hat at this, right? But
you would think so. And I'm also going to make sure my phone is on silent.
Yeah. Did you hear mine?
Yeah, I did. All right, mine's good too. Professional.
So,
Cam, how's it going?
Oh, hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Cam.
Professor Cam.
Professor Cam.
No, not really.
Well, we've got a. I went and checked out a new game store today. That's actually only about 25 minutes away the other direction. So,
cool.
Kind of nice guys. So I might have something coming up in the future, some videos detailing some of the local FLGSs and what it takes. But tonight we've got a very special guest with us, so I don't want to keep him waiting. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on with us.
Oh, you made yourself big, Jeff.
I don't want a big Jeff.
There you go.
There we go.
How you doing, Matt?
Oh, pretty good. How about you?
Doing great. Getting ready to go to North Texas this week, and then CNY in Central New York next week. So I'm busy, man. I'm trying to do everything all at the same time, and I had to mow the grass because it'll be 2 weeks before I get to do it again.
Yeah, well, you'll have a great time in North Texas. It's a really fun convention.
Yeah, I get to hang out with the guy below me here, Dan. So we're gonna be hanging out. Actually, at both cons we'll be hanging out, but I am bringing my wife up to CNY, so we're driving up to CNY, but I'm flying out to North Texas. So got to figure out what to take with me. People are like, "Oh, you should at least bring something with you." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'm gonna bring my camera and my laptop." And no. They're like, "You should get something to get signed," and I'm like, "Okay."
It is fun. I was at Gary Con and I got a lot of things signed by, Matt.
Yeah, you were showing some of them off.
I did.
Did you do that? Oh.
I did, and then it was funny because after that first day, I woke up at like 5 a.m. and I was like, "Oh, I can't sleep. I could drive home and say hi to my wife, and then get more cool stuff to get signed at Gary Con." So I did.
Yeah, you live close enough to do that, don't you?
Yeah, I'm like 50 minutes away from Lake Geneva, like straight shot south. So
yeah,
isn't bad.
Well, Cam.
Yes.
You always have a question that you like to start off with. So I maybe we should put Matt on the spot here and let you ask your question of interest.
Certainly. It's a bit of an icebreaker. I always like to ask our guests how their origin story for getting into role playing way back in the day, whenever that might be. So, how did you get into role playing in the first place?
Well, it was like 1977 or 1978, and I was about 10 years old and interested in Napoleonic wargaming, of all things, which not a lot of people were into, but wargaming was bigger at that point. And so I'd been to a wargaming convention actually before I ever went to a gaming convention. And so when you go to the mall back then, you go into the hobby store, that's where you get, the figures. And so I was looking at Napoleonic stuff and saw it was only a monster manual and a player's handbook of the advanced D&D stuff. And actually at one of the wargaming conventions, I'd seen OD&D being played as well, but didn't really know anything about that or even talk to the people. I just saw it there. And a friend of mine, Jim Hazeltine, called me up and he's like, "Hey, I've got this, new game." So we went over there and he had a Holmes Basic set. And that was when I had paged through the monster manual, and it was interesting, but I didn't quite understand how it was supposed to be used because it's the monster manual, so there's no rules in there. There's numbers, so I figured it had something to do with some kind of wargaming. But it wasn't until we actually started playing with the Holmes Basic set that I realized, okay, that's what that book's all about, and went and got a copy of that. After that, and then we were off and running. So it was 78 Holmes Basic set.
Okay, great. Well, that's certainly a very early and kind of a classic entry.
What a nice way of saying, "My God, you're old." That's much appreciated for the delicacy behind that.
Well, don't feel bad at all. I think Jeff and I certainly came in not too long after that. So Dan is a youngster, but
I am.
Yeah, he's the baby of the group.
I started in 91, so.
And that kind of pedigree is a compliment. Not if you're at Holmes, that's prior to me, to my knowledge. I didn't even know about Holmes Basic until maybe 5 years ago. So I started out with Mulvey, and I thought that was the first basic set at least. Yeah. So, well, that, like I said, that is certainly an impressive start, and with the wargaming background too, like Gary and many of the other creators.
Yeah, although I was a kid, so it was like
sure.
I was more into the history of the Napoleonic War and the toy soldiers than the actual wargaming. But we did go to a couple of wargame conventions, and they let me play one of the units, and I was like, "Let's do this," But you cannot say that at 10 years old you're into wargaming. You don't get it, or at least I didn't get it really.
Sure. So Jeff, do we want to? What do we want to move on to? Do we want to talk about what's going on currently?
Well, so yeah, in my I had reached out to you to get you on the show, and because we're kind of doing a series talking about OSRIC and OSR, and then I discovered, because Dan didn't tell me, you got a Kickstarter going on in about 35 days.
Yeah, we're going to be launching a setting. Which is for OD&D, Swords and Wizardry, that's got more of a Conan type feel to it. And since you guys are really doing a series on the different OSR systems, we can go ahead and talk systems, because that sort of folds into the whole, once you've got the systems, what is it that you do next kind of thing. And
sure.
So, there'll be a good segue into it, but why don't we go ahead and stick with your planned evolution of the series of shows, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Well, so which came first? I guess what was the origins of the OSR? And I do have a follow-up on the origins of the OSR, because a lot of people, there seems to be some debate in the community about
really, in the OSR community, there's some
never right.
Hey guys, what does the R stand for?
Right. Yes, well, that was the follow-up question. So if you want to take it from there, and what was the whole lead up to it?
The whole OSR?
Well, yeah, to starting the OSR.
I think Jeff's
the
going
movement.
like what was the impetus for, because OSRIC created it, right? I mean,
Yeah, well, no, I mean, really, the OSR kind of started around the Dragon's Foot Forum would be mainly where I would say it really started, and it was like 2002. I think they started up. I wasn't one of the first people in there, but keeping in mind, the internet was a slow roll, and so people were having difficulty finding stuff. It's nothing like what it is now. So, about 2002, this community at Dragon's Foot gets put together, and it's that community that defined the initial OSR. And then talking about the history of OSRIC. So one of the things that was being discussed there was open licensing, because 3rd edition D&D had an open license with the SRD and so on and so forth. And Troll Lord Games was working on Castles and Crusades, and they were talking to people at Dragon's Foot about, what, again, this is a little bit before I got there, but apparently it was a sort of, what should be in this, take a look at this. And so, that was the evolution of Castles and Crusades. And I think I came into Dragon's Foot after Castles and Crusades was already published. I can't remember if I found Dragon's Foot because of Castles and Crusades or found Castles and Crusades because of Dragon's Foot. I just don't remember which one I got to first, but I was actually playing 3rd edition at that point, and hit my breaking point on the whole, these rules are too complicated. It's getting in the way of my ability to run a game. Really, the first time in my life I realized that rules do matter, because I had just followed one edition after the other. I played 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and just moved on, every time they came out with a new edition. And then finally realized, because it was just a thing that should have been really cool, and it fell down into people talking about numbers. And it was somebody trying to jump on the back of a dire lion to jump up and cut at a wraith that was hovering up in the air, and it turned into numbers, and it should have been just, one die roll, move on, cool move. But so ended up at Dragon's Foot, and Castles and Crusades came out, and as there is in the OSR community, there's some people who like it, some people who don't, blah blah blah. But the thing to me, and they have fixed this now, but at the time they didn't have any sort of compatibility license. You couldn't, third parties couldn't produce something for Castles and Crusades at that point in time, which I think you can now.
Yeah.
But that was for me, because what I wanted was something that people could use to produce something for AD&D, and in order to do that, you would need to have a compatibility license with some new made-up trade name, because you couldn't use AD&D. So took a stab at rewriting the AD&D books for that purpose, for publishers to be able to reference. So we wrote that, and then Stuart Marshall took it over, because I was like, I'm going to get sued or something like that. I just can't really put my house at risk. And Stuart took it, finished up the last part of it, and released OSRIC 1.0, which didn't have any monsters. All it was rules, character generation, magic items, and the stuff that you would need if you were writing a module, basically. And we figured that we would have maybe 100 people use it total. So we put it out there, and we figured, we'll get 5 or 10 guys, we'll download this, and they'll read through it and, do what people do, which is to say, you missed a comma on page 7. Or I disagree with the way you've, done the sleep spell, whatever it might be. And in the first 24 hours after we put it out there were actually 50,000 unique downloads on it. And so instead of, 5 or 10, we had 50,000. And then we were like, okay, so this is going to be a little bigger than we thought that it was going to be. Stuart got contacted by Wizards of the Coast, and it was a whole big thing. So that's, and that's really the point at which the sort of commercial publishing, and I hate to use the word commercial because nothing in the OSR is remotely on the scale of what the mainstream publishers are doing. I mean, but my goal was to set up a situation where somebody could put something up for sale to at least be able to recoup the cost of, you know, having somebody doing the layout and somebody doing the art and somebody doing the writing. And that, you know, if you could only do one of those three or two of those three, you'd be able to meet that third point, you know, and pay somebody with the proceeds of it. It's just very cottage industry was sort of the idea behind it. And OSRIC was really the point at which the pre-2000 TSR editions of Dungeons and Dragons first started getting that sort of third-party publisher capability. And so things started to get put out at that point in time. And that's where most people sort of think that the OSR starts, is it starts with that, you know, commercial cottage industry publishing. It's not quite. It did begin, it was the community, and it began earlier than that. And that's part of the reason that there's all this ambiguity about what is the OSR. It's because it's been different things at different times, and it's all centered on the community, not a manifesto. So,
Yeah.
Sure. Look, there's a point in there. Something that I have never understood is, I understood that the OGL and everything allowed people to publish for, you know, third edition era, you know, D20 system, things like that. But I was surprised when I first learned that material before was also apparently covered under that. What was the point that unlocked that? Because it was never clear to me how it would be backwards applied to older material.
well, it wasn't. That was what the problem was.
Okay.
But what it, the SRD, you know, back at that point in time, we went through an SRD, a system reference document, which had the rules.
Right.
You know, now you've got the Creative Commons license. But what those really unlock, if what you're trying to do is a system that's earlier than what's being licensed, what you need in order to get fair use under the copyright laws is basically the terminology. Because like everyone says, you know, you can't copyright game mechanics, but you can copyright the description of game mechanics. And so you can't get too close to the way in which it was described in the book that you're referencing. In general, so what that means is that the thing that you really need access to is it's fairly easy to rewrite something until you stumble across one of the points of connection that can be linked in a copyright issue, which is generally the terms of art. So things like the spell name magic missile, the term saving throw, the term hit points. None of those is copyrightable in and of itself.
Okay.
But when you have combinations of too many of that sort of thing, then you can get points of connection that can lead to not being able to use it in fair use. So what you're really accessing when you go to a system reference document or to the Creative Commons license is the use of those terms, because I can rewrite magic missile in terms of the old rules, but I still need to call it magic missile for people to know what I'm talking about. And now I've got access to the term magic missile plus all of its connected armor class, you know, little buzzwords, because all of those are in that open license. So I'm really just using the open license to unlock the terms.
Right.
Okay. So
it did not and never has given access to the actual, you know, AD&D first edition, AD&D second edition.
Sure.
It was only the specific rules that they were doing.
It's the application of those, and the, you know, in particular the combination that when you cross a certain threshold, basically.
Right, and it was, and that was the aha moment that I had, which is not super genius, but nobody had thought of it until then. Was that you could actually get back to that old rule set via the terminology, via the open game license.
That might be super genius, because I think it's probably safe to say that they never intended for that to happen.
What were some of the things that are still in copyright jail? Like beholders and illithids come to immediate mind, right? Because I don't think those aren't in the Creative Commons. But like, what were some of the other things you might have?
That's not actually copyright jail. That's trademark jail.
Oh, okay. Trademark jail. Sorry.
There's two different types of intellectual. Well, there's more than two, but there are two important parts of intellectual property. One of them is copyright, and one of them is trademark. And it's expensive and time-consuming to put a trademark on something, but when you do that, like Beholder, it's a lot stronger than copyright protection. It doesn't, as long as you're selling your thing, that doesn't, it doesn't go away. Well, that's the case with copyright as well. But there is not much fair use for people's trademarks.
Right.
So that stuff is all in the jail. Now, it used to be you couldn't use any trademarks because that was part of the contract that was the OGL, because any license is actually a contract. Mm-hmm. And so what you were agreeing to when you used the OGL was, I won't use any trademarks at all. If you weren't using that open game license, which now people are not because they're using the Creative Commons license, which doesn't have that requirement in it. So nowadays, people can say, this is intended to be used with such and such a game. You could actually use the terms, advanced Dungeons and Dragons when you're selling something. You need to be careful about it.
Right.
But there are areas because you see it on the shampoo, compare to Dove shampoo.
The world's most popular tabletop role playing game, I think, is one that a lot like to use.
Right. Well, that was the way people got around it during the time of the OGL. Now people can actually say Dungeons and Dragons. You just have to be real careful to put in there also, we are not the publisher of Dungeons and Dragons. That is a trademark held by Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, and we make no claim as to that trademark. We're only mentioning this for purposes of being able to identify the, which edition we're talking about.
Yeah, Bill Sylvie, Dungeon Delver, he says the OSR starts with me. So,
Bill?
Yeah. Bill's a great guy, and I think Dan is actually playing in one of his games too. Right?
I am on Friday night. I just got wasted on Friday night by Save or Die. I ate some steak and I died.
Yes. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Goodbye to Aaron the fighter.
Aw,
that's okay.
That's all right. Now that's going to be Karen the fighter.
No, I'm sure there's other pre-mades that Bill has in store for us.
He had another good one in here too, and I've got some other ones here. I suggested Gelatinous Boob as a rewrite, but alas, Stuart wouldn't budge. I think that means more to you than it does to me. So, I've seen Gelatinous Dude suggested and thrown around. I think somebody's doing that. But at any rate, so what does the R stand for? Because I've heard three. Two of them predominantly revival and Renaissance. The third one being rules. And DM Bloodworth, Rich, he says collectively, yes, they're all maybe kind of OSR, but they're also he makes a delineation between those. He likes to say, well, there's a revival and a Renaissance, and people that are just playing with the old rules, and they're all three distinct subdivisions, if you will, in that neighborhood. What's your stance on it?
Well, I always used it with old school Renaissance. I don't remember anybody really arguing about it right at the very beginning. That sort of seemed to come in later, which is probably factions in again coming up, because there's always been a group of people in the OSR who were very much hey, we want to see the original TSR versions of the games, and maybe some of these newfangled retro clones are okay, but we really don't want this movement to put its name on anything that's departing too far away from the old TSR thing, because we're a club of people talking about the old TSR games, and we need to make sure that that our club isn't blown apart by newcomers. Is I think sort of the old school rules group, and obviously the club has been blown apart by a bunch of really cool ass newcomers at this point in time, down the road, because the forums were blown up by the bloggers, then the bloggers were blown up by G Plus for a while, and then now everyone's scattered out to different social media sites because there's nothing to link them. And now we've got the NSR movements coming in with Shattered Arp and so on and so forth. So I mean it's moved on. So I don't I think it's become more of a renaissance than a rules at this point.
Yeah. So you think Renaissance kind of encompasses all of them?
Yeah, I think so.
The whole general. It's kind of everything coming back. There's the way I think he explained it was revival is bringing back OD&D or bringing back first edition, second edition, ADD, stuff like that. And you said NSR. We're talking new school rules, or what does the N mean?
Well, I think, and I'm not up with it, all the way, but I think a lot of people are now dividing the OSR into the original TSR plus the Retro Clones group, and then the newer systems that have been developed to zero in on the gameplay, on one or more principles that those were based on, but do it in a different way. And then all the way through it, of course, you've got, wild and crazy artists doing really cool stuff, with maps and pictures. I mean, there's a whole, focusing on the rules misses a whole bunch of the OSR, because the OSR first of all, it's a punk DIY movement where you do your own thing, you put it out there, and and it's out there for people to take a look at and see the creativity.
Sure.
It's and it's got art aspects to it. It's got a lot more to it, I think, than just systems.
Sure.
And so
Well, I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Cam.
Well, that brings me to another question. You mentioned that you were playing third edition, and I was a heavy player of third edition. I still like it, even though I'm a big fan of the OSR as well. And you mentioned the situation that kind of brought this to a head about the Dire Lion, and I'm wondering because a lot of the kinds of, I understand what you mean by that, but I experienced that sort of thing in playing late second edition too, meaning people that were very into the mechanics and the rules, and it's written like this, so I can do this, or you can't do this, and those kinds of arguments that maybe existed more commonly in third edition. So the crux of my very long question here, sorry, is what is it that you think is really the cause or the thing that blocks that old school feel? And you just mentioned about the mechanics. So is it really the mechanics, or is it the mechanic that kind of draws someone into a different mindset? I understand this is kind of a difficult question to answer, but is there one thing that really is the linchpin between new and old school, or that blocks this old school kind of play?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think the OSR is made up of a bunch of different principles, some of which are contradictory to other ones, and it's just sort of a syndrome. It's like if you've got enough of them, then
sure,
but I was talking about specifically my case that up until that point, I was somebody who was like, dirt to dirt, rules don't make a difference. And rules do make a difference. I think everyone realizes, whether it's a big difference or not, maybe not. But in my case, I had just been like, well, it's the same game. It's the same game. First edition is the same as second edition. Second edition is the same as third edition. It wasn't until that point that I realized, okay, I actually I didn't know it, but I do have a preferred rule set.
Sure.
So that was the breaking moment for me, but I don't think it's necessarily even something that would be the same thing for everybody. That just happened to be what the straw that broke the camel's back in my case.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Jeff.
I was gonna say, you don't hold anything against the folks like, of course, Kelsey Dion. God, lightning in a bottle, right? She struck just at the right time.
I love Kelsey. I mean, we hang out with them at conventions. She's great. And I think that she is one of the best things that has happened to the OSR in quite a while, because what she is, you know, it used to be that we would say every time a new edition of Dungeons and Dragons, mainstream Dungeons and Dragons comes out with a new edition, the OSR pulls in a whole bunch more people, because every time you've got a whole bunch of people who make the decision, do I move to the next one? Do I stick with the one I've got?
Right.
And they always also look back and say, or what about this, you know, stuff back in the Things days that the Gen X latchkey kids were playing? You know, maybe I'll go and do that. And Kelsey is doing that without a new edition being needed. She is funneling people who are currently dissatisfied with Wizards of the Coast. She's teaching them how to play a simpler game. And that's the hard part, is how to play a simpler game without thinking that it's incomplete. And from Shadowdark, I'm guessing that a lot of those people will then be like, okay, well, what else is out here? And a lot of them will stay with Shadowdark. I mean, it's a good system. But, you know, I think a lot of people who are like, well, you know, Shadowdark's not, you know, real, you know, TSR, you know, that is utterly missing what it is that Shadowdark is doing for the people who are playing the earlier systems. It's bringing in a whole bunch of people who are pre-primed to already understand the idea of a simpler game that's shooting for a different set of goals than the mainstream edition.
It's a fantastic gateway drug.
Yeah. You know, and so like Cam really hit his stride, I guess, 3rd edition, and Cam mostly likes to play.
You call me the youngin'.
He'll freely admit that he loves to play. He'll DM if he has to. I was like, oh man, I could never DM. And then we had 3rd 3.5, I think 3.5 had just come out, and our roommate was a forever DM and said, hey, you want to try doing it? And once I did it, I became the forever DM. He just kind of like, here you go, now you're cursed.
I like DMing. DMing is the best.
But I do. I love DMing. So my first DMing experience was with 3rd edition or 3.5, and I DM'd. I tried 4th edition. We don't talk about 4th edition.
We don't talk about 4th edition.
No,
but then I DM'd 5th edition, and it was fun at first and a little superhero-y, and
see, you're going forward. I want to go back.
Yeah, but you know, the thing is that's, you know, they kind of broke the camel's back, so to speak, finally with me, and you know, I'm like, I'm not. No, let me look back, and that's when I dove in. I, you know, Good Me Games stuff with DCC and their some of the old classic reprints from the original adventures, redone. Troll Lord Games. I'm a huge Troll Lords fan. You know, I talk to Chuck all the time from the Trolls. I love them, and I've done Shadowdark. I went in on the Shadowdark Kickstarter, and I've run Shadowdark, and it's like, oh my god, this is so easy to run. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I think whereas Dan said gateway drug, you know, so to speak, for getting people from whatever the current iteration is over to the OSR and OSR adjacent, if you will.
I mean, I have gotten my friends to play Shadowdark, and then from there we have played OSE, Hyperborea, Swords and Wizardry. I'm probably going to run OSRIC this year. And to that point, actually kind of leads into my question, Matt. How soon after OSRIC release did you start working on Swords and Wizardry?
2 years, year and a half. I think OSRIC came out in 2008. No, OSRIC came out in 2006. And then Labyrinth Lord came out in 2007. And that was also where I realized that by having a company behind the game, that you can pull in fans and get a lot more, you know, sort of community spirit going, was watching Dan Proctor with Labyrinth Lord. And then I came out with the first, the core version of Swords and Wizardry, I think in 2008.
Cool.
And that's Mythmere Games. That's your.
Well, it is. Well, actually, it was then too. Yeah. Although at that point, that was just a little sole proprietorship, to sell the thing. So yeah, that was Mythmere Games, and after we left Frog God, we were just like, well, what do we call the company? And I was like, well, I've actually got this little Mythmere Games thing, that's been out there all this time. Let's just go ahead and make it real. So bing.
Nice.
That's awesome.
I'm excited for a Mythmere Games official Swords and Wizardry setting. That's going to be awesome.
So what's the because you've done a bunch of stuff, and we can get into some of that other, but you've got OSRIC 3.0 and you've got Swords and Wizardry. There's a new. Go ahead and explain what all is coming on those two fronts, because you've got both of them. I see there's right now it's available in pre-order. OSRIC 3.0 is.
Yeah, although it's only on pre-order because there are some. We did two versions of the book, one in a landscape format that was wider than it was tall, and the other in portrait. The landscape books got printed second by the printer. They haven't gotten all the way over to the UK yet to get out to the rest of the world. Everything else has gone out to people, but there are still some people who are waiting for their Kickstarter fulfillment. And so it's still technically a pre-order, because on the site, we can't drop it over to the immediate delivery because some of it can't be immediately delivered yet. So
yeah.
So what was the rest of the question?
There's a ton of them. So actually, Tim Shorts from Gothridge Manor earlier on, when we mentioned Jorba, he asked if it was the same setting as the live play you did a few years ago.
It is the same setting, but it's cleaned up a lot. I have made some changes to the way the alignment thing works, and but yes, it is basically the same setting with a lot more stuff added to it. So people who watch those live streams, may remember that it's a very sort of Conan-esque, comic booky type of thing, fairly gonzo. It's not quite as gonzo as some of the stuff that's been done in the OSR, but it's fairly gonzo. It's sort of in a Fertile Crescent Bronze Age kind of feel, except that it's using the real equipment lists for OSRIC and for Swords and Wizardry. So that de facto means it's somewhere between 1200 and 1300. So it's not really Bronze Age at all. It just feels like it. So you could think of it as it's the Fertile Crescent in the 1200s, except no Christianity and no Islam. You could think of it that way, whichever one works for you. But
and magic maybe, and this and that and the other.
Yeah, so it's Conan-esque, but as we were discussing trademarks earlier.
Yeah, right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Dirty Dwarf had also said, "Hey, it's Matt Finch. Love your stuff, sir. Swords and Wizardry be my jam." So
also my jam, Dirty Dwarf.
There you go. There's a bunch of there. Bill, Dungeon Delver, he's back. He says the OGO was a trap, a very, very clever trap. Took them a quarter century to spring it, but spring it they did.
Bill is one of the most suspicious people about Wizards of the Coast that you'll ever meet. And the only people that he was more suspicious of was TSR back before the day.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, anybody named Williamson seems to be a bad fit for whoever they are. Williams,
know, right?
Williams, yeah. Cynthia Williams, and what was the other one? I don't know.
Lorraine.
Yeah. So, okay. Ultra. What's up, Ultra? He said he would like to hear directly from Matt Finch on this question. I was able to get the OSRIC 2.0 POD, so that's the print on demand, for just $15. What's the rationale for why I should spend 6 times that amount for a retro clone remake?
I don't even know where he's getting the OSRIC 2.0 print on demand, because no one's authorized to be selling that, as far as I know. There's a couple of different answers to that question. Number one is, it's a higher page count. A lot of it has to do with the quality of the book.
Okay.
If you get a print on demand copy, and you're not really going to probably be able to see this, but like the way that we produce these books, you see this little thing in here. These are signature stitched in there,
Right.
with way more expensive binding than what you've got in any of the prior OSRIC books, which is basically it's a cover glue pages. So when you're opening it and your thing cracks and a page comes out, then that's the that's what.
Oh, like my fifth edition, first printing in my 5th edition player handbook.
Right.
Which I shoved all the pages back, I think, in order.
Yeah, 5th edition. Yeah, the player's handbook, exactly.
The first printing was notorious for that.
I had mine was a monster manual. Anyway, that explains about 3 times out of that 6 times.
Okay.
Of the cost. Part of it is the profit margin that Susie and I are producing these to actually make a living. And so when you got the profit margin in there, you have to be making enough profit to be able to sell it to a retailer at half of the manufacturer's suggested retail price. So that's probably about 2 times. And then part of it is you must be buying something that is, $15 for a POD, that cannot be
without art. Is that an art-free thing or something like that?
Yeah, I don't know, because this is, hang on here. This is my Black Blade.
It's huge.
Yeah,
it's huge.
Well, this is what it used to be. This is a 1-volume OSRIC. Nowadays, I've got 2 of these on my desk, and I don't have any of ours. Anyway, but this book, you're not getting this book.
Dan does.
You're not going to
Right.
get this book for $15 on a POD. This is about a $30, at least $20. I would say 20 to 30.
Sure.
On a POD. So I'm not saying that you're lying, but I'm thinking you may be looking at one of the books that was only the player guide. Some people did those, and those were in paperback.
Yeah.
So a 100 odd page paperback, that sounds like a real number, but a hardback with all of the rules, I can't see getting that for $15.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I have one of the paperback player's guides, and I don't remember the cost, but that sounds about right.
Yeah. So I can explain it. I can't explain it all the way. But I think the reason I can't explain it all the way is that we're not comparing apples to apples. We're comparing apples to oranges.
Right. Also, there's a timing factor in there as well. OSRIC 2 is available for a long time, and costs have gone up. I mean, paper went up post-COVID,
paper,
and it never came back down.
Well, paper went up during COVID. I mean, there was a run on toilet paper because everybody.
Well, and it wasn't even that. It was because the wood mills and everything getting shut down. Whatever. Don't have to get into all that, but so I'm of the opinion that $45 for a Smithsonian hardcover book in today's day and age is a great bargain.
It is, because
you'll
deal.
see a lot of cars where
this is
$80.
It's about it ought to, if we were doing the full normal markup, it would be about $65 per book.
Yeah.
But we didn't want the buy-in cost to be that high for the thing. We wanted people to be able to get both of the 2 books for under $100 as the full buy-in to the system.
And even to that point, you guys were very generous and made the PDFs on drive-through pay what you want for both the player's guide and the GM's guide.
Well, I'm a big fan of free or cheap PDFs for a rule system.
Oh yeah, me too.
I know. I pulled them down. I was like, really?
Yeah.
So
you're offering the deluxe, real printed, high quality printed versions for people who want it, and people who might want to spend less. They do have a cheap option.
No, we don't.
I'm sorry, I meant the PDF version.
The PDFs are free.
Yeah.
The PDFs are free, but they're not really very well print optimized. We do have a POD option out there, but it's priced at about the same as the books. And that again is just, we do need to make a living off of it. So there's a profit margin on there. But basically we actually make less profit on the POD 1 volume thing than we make on the offset printed books. I mean, I think the general answer here is that it's two things. It's, number one, prices have just gone up. The price of paper, the price of warehousing, the price of shipping something to somebody has shot up in the last 7 or 8 months. And the other thing is the quality issue. Is there are different grades of quality in the binding of a hardcover book, and it is a lot cheaper if we were selling people a book that just had the pages glued in there. We're not. We're selling something that will last a lifetime of play, but that does make it more expensive. So
sure.
Yeah. I plan on giving my daughter my books, and she's 2, so right.
Yeah, wait until at least 12, because I had one of mine color in the pictures in my Deities and Demigods Cthulhu version.
I actually bought her a just absolutely beat first edition monster manual to use as a coloring book because it was $4 on eBay.
Yeah.
And she loves it.
It's a great coloring book.
Yeah.
Well, the upshot of all this is if people want to play, you have given them access to that information for free.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, it's always been free. I mean, the PDF of OSRIC has been free ever since, we would have been changing the whole theory and method of the thing if we were trying to charge for the PDFs on that. I mean, this was it began fan produced. We're running a company now, but this is still pretty much labor of love. We're not making much of a profit margin on it. This is to get the game system out there for people who want to use it, play
and
with
to
it.
look great on a shelf too, or at the table, or in use, which is what every book deserves to be, is in use, not just taking up space.
I'm old school enough in the sense that I still prefer a book, to electronic. Although I do reference electronic stuff, I just can't beat physical as far as I'm concerned.
Well, there's research starting to come out that people actually interact very differently with a physical book than they do with something that's on a screen.
Yeah, I mean, I can, just as purely anecdotal, I 100% agree. I much prefer having a physical book, to the point where when I'm running modules, right, I'll print them out and highlight them up like they're a textbook, because this is how I remember. If I skim through it on a PDF, I'll 5 minutes later I'll walk back and be like, wait, what did I just read? And have to go back and read it 4, 5, 6 times.
I like physical products for enjoyment. I like PDFs for searching.
Yeah.
That's the way I use. I can't read for enjoyment a PDF. I've tried it on my tablet. I've tried it. I can read and I can use it. I can search stuff for it, but it's not the same as turning pages.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if I may, I'd like to pick up on one of the answers you said. When you originally put this out and you got this explosion of downloads that you didn't expect. Kind of expanding on that question, are you surprised, or I'm sure you're pleased, but with how big this has gotten from what your original kind of plan was? I mean, far beyond the initial enthusiasm for it, where it's come in the intervening years.
You mean the whole OSR?
Yes.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it's. I can't really say that I'm super surprised. I mean, there used to be a joke that there were 137 of us. There were a couple thousand people who were on Dragon's Foot, but and this was before bots were invented. So at some point 2,000 actual people had gone in and put in an email address, but most of those people weren't there all of the time. So we used to joke, and I think it was Jim Radji started that joke of the 137 of us. But I have always really strongly believed that there is something more creative going on in those older rule editions than most people are able to tap into, at least without working at it really hard, than people are able to tap into with the newer ones. I think that a lot of the thinking has been done for you in the later editions of the games, and you're being given templates and things and not really encouraged very much unless you're the DM. And I think DMs and players interact differently with and DMs still, I think, have a richer experience of what they're doing. But, the players are really not very much encouraged to, do something different than what's here in the rule books. So I've always believed that. And so in a way, I'm really not surprised to see a whole lot of people sort of flooding back toward this more open-ended kind of style of play.
Sure. I'm sorry, Dan or Jeff, do you have another question? Or if not, I will. I do.
Yeah, go
I
ahead
mean,
because we've got
I've got a million swords and wizardry questions. So
We'll
Yeah.
because
well here's
love
a
it.
quick one really quick. Dirty Dwarf wants to know, do you prefer swords and wizardry or OSRIC?
That's funny. That was going to be my question.
All right, so
I stole it.
This opens up a really, really interesting line of thought. And first of all, the answer is swords and wizardry.
Okay.
And an original D&D versus a D&D. And it's obviously, I like AD&D just fine. But out of the matter of preference. Here's something interesting that I think has happened, though. I think that those two sets of rules have largely grown to have two followings that think about gaming quite differently. Most of the people who are playing OD&D now never played it back in the day. They came to it later on, including me. I'm not one of the original 74 grognards. I started with AD&D, World Homes Basic, but and I think we have seen people who favor a more open-ended, wild-ass type of game beginning to gravitate to the OD&D types of games, and probably a lot of the BX type of games as well. And the people who enjoy confronting a default setting with a strict set of rules so that they can beat that default setting tend to sort of gravitate into the AD&D group, getting two sort of different approaches to gaming that didn't originate back in the day. This is a new thing. This is post the beginning of the OSR. But I do think that you've sort of begun to see that separation coming in there. But yeah, the answer to the question is I'm an OD&D gamer. I'm fairly free and loose with the rules. It's not very important to me that I've got perfectly balanced fairness in a battle. I'll tend to throw in tactical depth out of nowhere rather than using the rules to have strategies. So, and I'm trying to make this, not sound like I'm running down AD&D, because obviously it's a system I love as well. But I do have the preference for the slightly loosey-goosey or gonzo kind of feel on my games. So OD&D style.
Right. And Dirty Dwarf said he mostly uses OSRIC for ideas to add to his sword and wizardry games. So
yeah,
and that makes, I mean, we all steal ideas from every other system we have, right? I mean, just to throw it in there, that's kind of.
I use the alternative initiative 1 from Swords and Wizardry Complete Revised in basically every game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So doesn't matter what it is, just D6 sided go. I don't even count the movement, missile, melee, whatever. It just keeps it nice and fast and great. But
it's night and day too when you're running a game that goes fast. Everything is just hitting versus. Okay, 15 minutes later, we're about halfway through combat. The first round of combat, and we still got 3 more players to go.
Yeah.
So but that's great. Let's see, what else is there? Cam, did you had a?
Well, yeah, I just kind of along the same lines is. It sounds like you're pleased with the current state of OSR, given that it's so broad. Is there something that you could point to that you said, I wish there was more of this, or that maybe there was more interest in something that does exist, but is just kind of floating out there, or something that you don't like about where the whole OSR movement has gone?
Well, I mean, I don't like the gatekeeping feel that some people bring to the discussions about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that, I'll tell you one thing that's really bugging me, and it's out in the 5th edition universe, and I kind of wish that the OSR had a good way of talking to these people, because we've sort of got the answer, but there's not the communication. But I keep seeing, and it's younger gamers, because it's got to be Gen Z gamers who are
Right.
just running into D&D now, and there seems to be this terror of doing it wrong, and I'm talking about 5th edition, but even when they come into the OSR circles, and they're like, am I doing this exactly right? And it's like this, and so there's a culture out there now that we didn't have, because we were all, let's go in and fuck it up, and then and we'll fix it later. And there's much more this sort of, this has got to be a perfect performance of me, or my friends are going to make fun of me, or whatever the risk is that I don't know what it is. And I wish that there was a way of connecting with that. And so that's really, I think, I mean, the OSR is doing all kinds of stuff. If you want anything having to do with gaming, you can find somebody who's doing it. And since I like the DIY type of stuff, I mean, I guess one thing is that I almost, and this would be self-destructive, because we're one of the larger companies, me and Susie, that's out there. I wish that we were back in the days when there was a fairly level visibility, whether you were large or small. And I think that's probably the fact of Kickstarter and BackerKit, and the way that social media is doing stuff, and algorithms driving what it is that people see.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you've already got an audience, you get much more. And if you aren't starting with an audience, it's hard, so hard. I see people who are like, I put out this thing and 2 people, gave me, likes on my post. So I wish there were some sort of way of getting broader visibility out there. Although, really the OSR subreddit seems to be doing that. So maybe, I don't know.
It's interesting you mentioned that about the some of the concerns that like newer gamers will have on like how to run things. I'm a mod on Eric Tenkar's Discord for Tenkar's Tavern, and we actually see that a fair bit. Like 5e people will come and be like, hey, I'm just discovering BX, I'm kind of worried about running a game or anything for my friends. It's like, just go for it, like it's fine. And it's a great time, and everybody screws up every game they play. It's fine, you just roll with it and make it great.
I wonder if this comes from the whole thing of, in modern gaming, player agency, that
agency
DMs are very afraid to step on the toes of players.
Not me.
Well, I know, but newer people that never experienced old school gaming, and haven't been playing for 40 years. And it's just, I mean, that's what they were immersed in. That's how they think it is. Right. And players are very aggressive at some points, and thinking, well, the book says this, I can do this. Yeah. Therefore, if you're not letting me do this, you're wronging me in some way.
Yeah, those are people that never made a DM mad, and the DM just says, "Rocks fall, you're all dead, game over."
I mean, it's a social contract. This is how it's not players versus the DM. That doesn't make a fun game. It's not us versus them. It's let's try to facilitate having a good time for everybody, and let the story emerge from there. I've got this plans, and I've tried to plan everything out, but the players are gonna, if you expect the players to zig, they're gonna zag. That's the way it always is. I learned that my very first DMing session. I literally took the book and went over my back. I'm not kidding. I did the lightsaber toss like Jake Skywalker did, but before that movie came out, going, yeah, okay, so where are we going? And having to learn on the fly. Greg, our buddy Greg Gowron from Advanced Fantasy Games, who highly suggested I reach out to you. I don't know if you know him. I presume you do.
Oh yeah, we've been talking before his Kickstarter. Yeah.
Yeah. Which great job. And I have 2 of these to give away soon. I'm going to be giving them away. 2 of the numbered prints that we got from him. At any rate, You gotta subscribe. Gotta subscribe. He said, question for Matt. You made Monsters of Myth. I believe it's first edition, and I don't see it for 3.0. Did I miss it, or is it coming, or can we use Monsters and Myth with 3.0?
It ought to be usable. I mean, we haven't changed any of the rules. We've changed the details of some of the rules, but you should be able to use that with OSRIC 3.0, no problem. The Mythmere Games is not doing that because that was published by the Knights and Knaves Ale House from way back, in the early days of OSRIC, and I don't know whether Black Blade is doing it now, but that's there. I don't think there's a need to when you come out with a new thing, you don't need to redo absolutely everything. You only need to redo the stuff that's core to it, and then I want to focus on, let's do some new shit. Let's do new modules. Let's do a new monster book, because at this point I've written so much stuff in the past that if I tried to redo everything I've done, that would take me all the way till past I'm 65 and I'd be done with. So
will there be a cool new Jordiba monster?
Well, but the reason is that Jordiba, I did it when I was producing a YouTube show for which I was writing 2 adventures a week and 3D printing all of the terrain and painting all of the terrain and painting all of the miniatures for running those 2 games while writing the campaign and releasing that on a Patreon with something being released every week. And so it is not my best work. It's full of awesome stuff, but it's not necessarily written or organized or illustrated or laid out well at all. So
I guess since you mentioned it, is it time to talk about that one?
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, it's for both Swords and Wizardry and OSRIC, and it's when you have a rule system. Step 2 is you have to support that rule system, or else you're just throwing stuff out into the void.
Right.
And so this is our next step. The other choice could have been modules, and that's basically going to be probably the one after this one. We're probably going to release Spire of Iron and Crystal with this, which again is a reprint of something that I had done before, and then work on doing one that is probably modules for both OSRIC and Swords and Wizardry. I mean, I think mainly we're going to be doing stuff side by side. We've made, I think, the decision that we're not going to try and do this whole conversion game that a lot of publishers do, where they'll write something for let's call it OSE, and then we're also releasing a version for 5th edition.
Right.
A lot of times they don't translate all that terribly well from one to the other. So you're either doing a lot of work, or you've got one version of that adventure that's really not as strong as the other one. And so we're just going to do, here are the OSRIC adventures, here are the Swords and Wizardry adventures. You guys know well enough how to convert on the fly between OSRIC and Swords and Wizardry. That's a baby step in between those two. Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
So so that way you only have to buy, if you are the customer, that way you only have to buy it one time. You don't end up, for the sake of completeness, buying 2 versions of the same module. So it's that sort of, what's your supporting lineup look like? And so this is, as we've got here on the screen, Glenn Seal's map that he did way back in the day, and that's what we're going to be coming out with. And it's going to be a player guidebook. And by the way, there's a free 3-page comic book that you can get. And we're going to do 3 more pages once those are finished, and that people can get at the point that they back the Kickstarter when it launches. But if you do go, you can get it from drive-through as a free product, but to direct to it, if you sign up for the World of Jordiba, notify me on launch, it'll give you a link to go and get it that way. But it's a really cool comic book. It's with Brett Barkley from Dark Horse Comics. And I think it really, the reason that is such an awesome tool for a player guide, because it is going to have just a real quick player guide in there. If they can see it in front of their eyes, these are pictures of what this whole thing looks like. You're getting so much more if you're a DM and you've ever had trouble getting your players to buy into a campaign, this is instant buy-in. You know, you see it as a comic book. You're like, okay, I want to be in that comic book. There you go.
Yeah, and I did. I've got the comic. I was looking at it earlier, 3 days ago,
Mhm.
and I thought, it was like, man, this is kind of cool. I've never seen a comic book come out for for a launch.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. And it launches in 35 days, so that's kind of cool. And so you can use this with anything, right? Yeah, I mean, you could do it.
Oh yeah,
OSRIC,
I mean,
yeah.
if you know OSC, you can use it. Shadowdark, you know, Shadowdark may be a little bit off, but I don't think that there's any real discussion about anything that drills deep enough for it to trip over the Shadowdark rules. So yeah, it's usually Shadowdark.
I mean, if you want to follow the Chubby Funster rule of things, I don't know if you know Greg Christopher or not. You probably have met him, probably at North Texas. Yeah, he's a machine putting out stuff. He had started doing stuff for 5e, and then he's like, yeah, this is, yeah, it's cool, but and then he switched over to Shadowdark, and man, I mean, his stuff, and he's like gone tangentially off of some of the Shadowdark stuff,
Mhm.
and he ran his Skyrim like system for us because we can't be Skyrim officially, but
because Dan trademark, as we talked.
yeah, right, because of that earlier conversation we had.
Yeah.
But Shadowrim was really, really fun, and he's got Shadow City, all kinds of stuff. So you might not be a bad idea to
Well, I think, and like, I mean, that's one of the beautiful thing about these systems, right? Like, you can take a BX module and run it in Swords and Wizardry in OSRIC. Pretty much, it might be some small tweaks for Shadowdark, right? Because Shadowdark, the scaling's a bit different, but
yeah, or
OSC,
Castles and Crusades,
Castles and Crusades,
enormous area where the only people seeing the distinctions are us.
Right.
Other people are like, I don't even see what the difference is.
Yeah,
it's the same picture.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's a few modules I've run personally in multiple systems. Castle Amber is definitely one of them. It's my favorite old TSR module because it's ridiculous and I love it. Tomb of the Iron God's another one. I've run that in Shadowdark and OSE and Swords and Wizardry, of course. Like it doesn't take much to convert the stuff really on the fly. It's awesome.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing might be the Shadowdark, the typical Shadowdark GM. I guess you would say I'm not a typical Shadowdark GM because I have roots going back before. Some of them may be intimidated by some of that conversion process, but that's one of the things I preach. It's like, look, you can run any system. You can take any of your 5th edition stuff. You can run it in Castles and Crusades. You can run it in OSE. You can run it in.
Well, and what's the worst that can happen? Either you convert it and it's too easy and they win. Oh well. Or you convert it and it's too hard and they all die. Oh well.
Oh well.
So, but no, I think that's great.
I think it's the intimidation factor.
Don't be intimidated. It's just numbers.
Yeah, I'm not saying I am. I'm trying to think. It's only been 30 years.
I'm excited for the Jordan Kickstarter. I'm a big Conan, Swords and Sorcery. I love Hyperborea. I love some of the OD&D Age of Conan stuff that Jason Bate did. That's on his website. I love all that stuff. That's like the essence of D&D to me. I know there's other books in Appendix N, but
yeah. All right. Another question here. Will the Swords and Wizardry white box come back, or is it gone for good?
Still planning to have it come back. We just wanted, we got a bunch of, when we did a new version of it, we got, some complaints about bits and pieces that were in there. And so we decided, we'll pull it, we'll fix that stuff. We've pulled it. We haven't put it back out yet, but the plan is still that we'll put that back out.
Yeah. Let's see. Dying Breed.
No. Do Dying Breed.
Yeah, Dying Breed. That's Kyle from Nerd Cognito. He is a great friend of ours. He says, while Mr. Finch is quite modest, and I call you the Godfather. I call you the Godfather of the OSR. He says, I believe that Matt Finch and Chris Gunnerman are the original inspiration figures for the OSR. Without you, Mr. Finch, this hobby would be less, and I thank you.
I am so glad that somebody brought Chris up, because I realized that in my quick telling of OSRIC and the history behind it, I left Chris out, which I normally don't, because what Chris did, and anybody who doesn't know, Chris wrote BFRPG, Basic Fantasy Role Playing Game.
Okay.
Which came out. He put his first draft out about a month before OSRIC came out, and then OSRIC came out. So we're talking right at the same time, and with basically the same goal, which was that Chris also wanted to get a shareable trademark out there, and he took a different approach than we did. He followed more with the sort of similarly to Castles and Crusades, following rules within the SRD, but to get something that functioned a lot like basic D&D. And also it's kind of funny because Chris and I sort of represent two different approaches to the commercial side of the thing, because Chris is open game license, products at cost. And so he's the keeping costs down for the gamers, whereas I'm also in favor of keeping costs down for gamers. But what I was saying, I was focused on, if you need an artist, you've got to have some way of paying that artist.
Yes.
Mine was sort of developing the ability for the commercial side of it to go. And so, Chris and I do represent two, sort of different approaches to it, but I definitely agree. He was right there. And Stuart Marshall, of course, because he actually took OSRIC from me and got it out there. There are a lot of, people who really push the Rock of Sisyphus forward a little bit, but I'm glad that somebody did mention Chris, since I forgot. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I mean, obviously, I've been all of the stuff I've got, with the exception of my old 3rd edition and some of the 5th edition stuff that I've got here that's on the shelves, has been acquisitions pretty much since in the past 6 years, since I had lost so much stuff before I moved up to Tennessee. So yeah, I'm not afraid of spending on something that's quality print material. Right. I am discriminating on what I spend it on, but I'm not afraid of spending it. So I get, where some people are saying, oh, well, $45. Well, $45 for a book, dude, that's cheap.
It is now. It didn't used to be.
Yeah, it didn't used to be. It is now.
I mean, yeah, I was looking at the price on my 3rd edition, the 3rd edition, not 3.5, the 3rd edition player handbook, and I got it for $29.99. And I don't think I could.
2000.
Yeah. It was on sale.
I do have kind of a deep cut question.
Sure.
So back in January, you guys acquired White Star from Barrel Rider. Is that going to be like a 2027 project, or just down the road, or? White Star, for those that don't know, is white box in space.
White box in space, yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to be, I mean, the future schedule it's not set. We don't have a list of first this, then this, then this. Susie would love to do something like that. The problem is that she's working with somebody who's like, yeah, but I really want to do Space D&D this month, or I really want to do, I really think we need modules for. I've got a really good idea for a module, so I'm going to do modules. And so, it's like I was talking about, the laboratory animal under properly, set conditions will do exactly what it damn well pleases. So, we'll get to that when the Space D&D bug hits me again.
Okay, cool.
How do
you like Space D&D?
It's already a finished product that's out there, so there's not a sense of urgency of this manuscript. We have paid for this manuscript, and no one is, we're not recouping any of that money because it's not out. It's there, it's out there, so the sense of urgency is a little less.
Right, of course.
Yeah. And so that kind of delves into one of the things that Cam and I do. We're both also into sci-fi as well. And I've been itching to do Traveler. Now I've got the Mongoose Traveler. Obviously, they're two different directions of tackling a tabletop game, because whereas you have class-based system for most of the fantasy games, Traveler itself is skill-based.
Mhm.
How do you handle that? And because I hadn't seen White Star, so from a novice on that one, how do you go about doing space D&D?
Well, it's you kind of come at it from the other direction. It's like the value of space D&D is that it's D&D, so everybody already knows how to play.
Yeah.
So you shoot into the game, very quickly. There is absolutely no way that with this game we're not even going to try and approach the intricacy of Traveler. What it is it lets you get instantly into the beer and pretzels. We're just playing a space fantasy game. I still am in awe of the fact that Mark Miller managed to put Traveler together at the time that he did, with the constraints that he had, on a typewriter.
Yeah,
unbelievable to me that he managed to come up with something. The system generation in Traveler is still, I think, unsurpassed in terms of coming up with interesting star systems that work. And he's got a system for starships that has held together as long as you can, keep in mind that, mainframe computers, that for some reason you need big mainframe computers. It's an absolutely unbelievable system. But, like you say, some people, hate a skill-based system. Other people hate a class-based system. So there's that division right there. And I think that in general, a skill-based system probably makes more sense with more types of science fiction settings than class-based. But on the other hand, look at Firefly. You've got character classes going on.
You do, yeah.
So it's not problematic, but really the benefit of the class-based system is that you get into it right away. Everyone understands how it works. Let's play.
Yeah. Okay. And Mac Thompson, he's out there. Dirty Dwarf, real quick. He said, please keep using Smithsonian binding for your books.
I was going to ask about whether people were interested in seeing this campaign coming in softcover books, and I have not even talked to the printer about what the costing looks like, but assuming that we could do. But I think that there are so many people who are so much a fan of the high quality hardcovers that I think we would, even if we said, hey, we're going to do softcover, there would be a lot of people who are like, nope, no, you're not. You're going to do it.
Well, but you know what? Here's the secret. I'll tell you a dirty secret. Since Dirty Dwarf brought this up. If you offer it in both, people like me are going to buy both.
That's true.
So, because that's what I do.
But I will tell you that the main thing you have going for you when you're doing offset printing runs is that if you don't do what we did with OSRIC, which we offered two different versions of it because there were a lot of people who liked one or the other, but financially, your goal is to only print one version of that as many people as possible. So, that's why we print OSRIC and Swords and Wizardry side by side in the City Encounter book we're going to do with this, is because that way everyone's buying that one thing, because the printer gives you a price
discount,
the more that you're
for volume.
So if you split it up between two versions, you can be doing some real damage to your profit margins. And profit margins, of course, when it's your actual day job, profit margin is real important.
That's true. That's true. So a lot of us aren't there. That's not our day job yet. I know. I think Chubby still has a career, and Rob Conley,
day job. Yeah.
He's got a day job, and so a lot of the guys do.
I am a hardcover Smithsonian binding snob, And I will go to great lengths if there exists an offset cover of or offset print version of a book that I want. I will go to great lengths to acquire that book rather than deal with like a drive-through RPG pod.
Yeah.
And I have killed Jeff with my love of Smythe Stone hardcover books. I'm sorry, Jeff.
Thank God for the mute button. For my part, I also tend to go for the hardcover if it's an option.
Yeah,
it's just
100%.
I like it better.
Yeah, it's worth it. Because, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, right, if you're already going in for a physical copy, in my mind, I'm a, buy once, cry once kind of guy. I don't want to have to buy a paperback book and then have it get beat to hell by my barbarian friends. And, they're better these days, but, have to go buy another copy or something like that. Yeah. So, but that's me. I'm a big fan of, nice, high quality hardcover stone binding books.
I like hardcovers.
They're worth it.
I prefer them.
You're alive. Excellent.
Yeah. I didn't joke. I tried.
You good?
Allergies are killing me, man. I want to know about the landscape printing, though. That's. I was like, no, that's neat and different. And I haven't seen that.
Give me a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I didn't die.
I'm glad.
My eyes are watering.
Did you just inhale air in the wrong tube?
I think I did.
Yeah, it sounded that really sounded like a cascading malfunction going on there.
It was. And I can feel it right here.
So here's the player guide, and I'm having to use this camera. So this is the landscape version of it. And
how does it?
And I have opened. Okay, so this right here, this fucking page right here, that tells you exactly why there is a benefit in OSRIC to using a landscape printed version is tables that span a bazillion inches worth of page. That was absolute chance. That was, but that shows why that was.
So how does the portrait version compare on that exact page?
Yeah, which table was that?
I closed the book and I don't have a copy. I don't have a portrait copy. I think Susie may have actually taken it with her. No, here we go.
So would you suggest getting the landscape version of that?
No, there are a couple differences. I mean, we worked it out both ways, but there are a couple of differences. One of these was accidental, and because the normal rule is that when you're doing something that's a color cover, you do it very glossy because that makes the color pop.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Which, if you're selling it on bookshelves, is a very important issue. One of these is glossy, one of these is not. That was not intentional. It's just the way that the printer quote got miscommunicated.
Yeah.
So if you prefer a very matte looking book, that's your landscape. If you want the sort of standard glossy portrait, that's the portrait version. The other possible reason to buy the landscape is that we're going to stick with the portrait version for reprints. So the landscape copy is going to be a limited print run, and I think
better order them.
1,000 copies of that, so maybe 1,100 of them with the overprint.
Don't do what I did, by the way.
And got all the way from Tennessee down to Texas. You can find exactly how long it takes for that copyright.
Is that the speed of whatever?
Germs.
There's one less copy of the landscape available.
If people do want to get something that only ever had 1,100 copies of each book printed, grab yourself the landscape copies. However many extras you want, because we're not going to reprint those. We're going to stick with the portrait, because the portrait had about a 60-40 split. About 60% of people wanted the portrait version, about 40%. It was nearer than that, but it was there was a definite statistical preference for the portrait bound version. So we'll stick with that.
I kind of like the landscape. I think that's unique, and I would love to have one of those. So that's probably going to be on my list to get. Hopefully, I'll still be able to get it. But those are still in. Well, as you said,
there's lots. No, there's lots of them. I'm not saying that we're short on them. It's just that those aren't going to be.
You can prove
reprinted, but there's
you're still fulfilling those, right? That's what you is still in fulfillment right now for Europe.
Yeah, those are the ones. The way we do it is our guys in the U.S. are really, really good with the customer service and all of that stuff. But if they have to send something outside of the U.S. borders, they don't do that very often. Because what we did was our first try with fulfillment was a company that did games specifically, and there it's us against much larger companies, and they weren't paying attention to us. What you want to do, and here's a tip for anybody who wants to do fulfillment as a game company. Find the guys who are sending out anything, the general fulfillment. If you're buying sodas, they're fulfilling sodas. Those guys pack it correctly because they have to look every single time they do a thing and think to themselves, how is this going to get packed safely so that it doesn't get damaged? And they do it right.
Yeah.
And we found a company like that, but they don't, the customs get screwed up if they're sending stuff outside of the US. So we don't use them for anywhere except for Brazil, and that's because the guys in the UK don't ship to Brazil because they lose so many customer shipments due to problems, bribery,
shipping. Yeah.
So they don't ship to Brazil. So everything in the whole world outside of the US goes to the UK and then gets sent out from there. Even Canada, which is still cheap. It's actually, if you're in Canada, you're better having us ship it on the surface all the way to the UK and then having them ship it back into Canada. It will still be cheaper for you as the customer.
That's insane.
Texas over.
That's insane considering that 90 some odd percent of the population of Canada lives within 20 or 30 miles or 100 miles of the US border.
Well, I think it's because we're in Texas. I think if we were further north,
it would be cheaper.
It wouldn't be that much of an issue, but
yeah,
however it goes, that's the.
If somebody wanted to order that, the landscape or the portrait one, they can do that from Mythmere Games.
Yeah, you go to mythmeregames.com is our website, which probably a lot of people have been there. If not, definitely, absolutely go there, shop around. Mythmeregames.com, and then sort of you scroll down because, like I said, the OSRIC stuff is still listed as a pre-order.
Right.
You will get it right away if you are in the U.S. because it'll go directly to the warehouse and they'll send it out. But if you're ordering landscape and you are not in the U.S., you are not going to get it right away, so it's still pre-ordered.
Okay.
But anybody in the U.S., you're getting it right away.
All right. Yeah.
So.
Well, I definitely will do that once I get done with my.
Did I just admit to being a brown coat?
Yeah. That's Kyle.
I swear by my pretty floral bonnet, I will.
and Dan responded, I do believe he did. And then we've got Roger, who is the second con that Dan and I are going to this month. Yeah. Next month, I guess. That's Central New York Con. And I'm sure Roger would love to have you come up to CNY Con at some point. It's growing. It's doing pretty good. He said White Star is awesome. He thinks they went a little overboard with the Galaxy Edition, though.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's going to get, when we do it, we're going to dial it back. And the plan is that we're just going to do a very slim, core. Here are, 2 or 3 classes with the adventuring rules, maybe not even with Starship Combat rules, just a very thin thing. And then you buy various supplements according to what you want to do. So if you want to have, mystical powers, here's the little book where you've got character classes where people are either, Jedi Knights or whatever, mystical spellcasters or whatever. Here's that one. You're going to be doing, spaceship combat. Here's a book about spaceship combat. That's the plan right now for how we're going to do it. And
what you're actually going to have ship-to-ship combat and stuff? Heaven forbid that somebody actually puts ship-to-ship combat in a printed
space game.
Yeah,
weird.
Or
Well, we're not gonna put it in the court. We're gonna follow the long time tradition of science fiction games not putting Starship Combat rules into their core books. That's the way it was done with, Traveler. That was not in the, in the core. It's the way it was done with Frontiers. What's the Frontier games?
Star Frontiers.
Star Frontiers.
Yeah.
Star Frontiers. Nothing about starships in there. We're gonna follow that lead.
Oh, that's okay. WotC did a Spelljammer with no ship-to-ship combat too.
Oh, I didn't know.
You didn't know that the 5th edition Spelljammer, not a word about ship-to-ship combat. They're like, who would want to do that? Everyone.
Yeah.
But anyway.
I like the idea of it being modular because I always like white box style games with all the little booklets and being able to sling the booklets around and like kind of mix and match and combine them to make what you want.
Well, I mean, and especially with science fiction, because I mean, it's such a broad genre.
Oh yeah.
And you've got so many different things, and a lot of people are very focused on a couple of things. Mechs and starships, or exploring old things. I want to fight Gene Stealers like it's Warhammer 40K, and it's so broad that if you do the whole single book resource that a lot of people like in fantasy books, your book's going to be enormous.
Yeah.
Thing, and so it makes much more sense, I think, in the science fiction context, to have this sort of pick and choose.
Because then you can get the granularity.
Yeah.
Right, because like Star Trek versus Star Wars versus like Gundam are all sci-fi, right?
But they're all a little
different.
Yeah.
Sci-fi.
Yeah, they're and or Firefly, and
I mean Firefly is basically just a Western in space. So
yeah. Well, that's kind of cool. Well, we'll definitely look forward to that. And what else? So you've got Jordoba launching in 35 days, I think is what it said. What else? What else do you have coming up? Any cons you're going to be going to in the near future?
Let's see. Well, we're skipping North Texas this year, which is the first time I've ever skipped North Texas. So Gary Con is probably the next one that we'll be going to, where we'll have a booth. I mean, we're still slowly working into the whole getting a booth, at conventions thing.
Yeah.
We may go to Gamehole. If we end up, running full speed, it would be probably North Texas, Gamehole, and Gary Con. So that's probably the plan, and then we may go to Long Con this year. We'll just kind of have to see where we end up. We haven't really finalized our convention schedule. So
let's see. Roy Loveday asked, hate to ask, but can't remember. Does this printing of the book have the cloth binding? I don't know. I'm not sure what
I'm doing. Wow, and this apparently probably asked it during a raid.
So he's explaining why he can't look it up. Does this printing? The problem is we don't know which book he's talking about.
I'm assuming OSRIC because that's what we were holding up while.
When that came in.
So it's a hardcover. It's hardcover binding OSRIC. So, and it's Smythe's own binding, high quality binding, hardcover book.
Yep. So
if you're talking about White Star, probably those will be paperback, just because they'll be so short.
Yeah.
And I told you, Roger would love to have you come up there at some point.
Central New York in June.
The week after North Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming up right soon, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's so North Texas is this week, and CNY is the week after.
I don't even have time to get a plane without getting charged. The surcharge on fuel tax of $700.
Well, right. I mean, I'm sure he'll be announcing when the date for the next year's is. But
I'm looking forward to the first CNY. It's gonna be a good time.
Oh yeah, it's really grown. I mean, you're going to have Greg Gillespie is going to be there, and who else? A bunch of folks are going to be coming up to that one. So his is growing. It seems to be a large pool of people in that area that are all regionally located. I mean, Eric Tenkar, of course, is going to be there, and Rachel is going to be with him up there. I think Eric Tenkar is just going himself right out to North Texas. I don't think Rachel's going to be with him out in North Texas.
I don't know. She comes a lot of the time.
Yeah. Well, they got a new puppy.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the whole reason that I'm not, driving up to North Texas is because our dog.
But CNYCon, as Roger will tell you, on the other hand, is at least going to be somewhat dog friendly. So he said he's volunteered his wife and daughter to take care of the puppies. So I thought about bringing my chihuahua.
If I tried to bring my dog on a plane, I'd end up on a no-fly list after that.
Oh, you got one of the, that's kind of like mine.
Me too. I have 4 dogs and they share 2 brain cells. So
yeah.
All right. So since we're talking, I got a relevant joke. People talking about the historical accuracy of the Odyssey movie, and I saw on, I think it was Facebook, somebody saying, in the last version of the Odyssey, we had Odysseus speaking with a Boston accent, and that's not historically accurate. He is from Ithaca, which is in New York. It just came since we were talking about New York. That joke popped into my head. Ithaca, which is in New York.
Amazing.
Well, he said maybe next year. Well, hey Roger, I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Okay. Roger's a good. I'm looking at starting a con here in East Tennessee because there isn't anything good that's focused in the OSR sphere. And it seems like everything is, a Warhammer or Star Wars, whatever the Star Wars equivalent is. I always forget the name of it. Dan knows what I'm talking about. He'll correct me. Any rate, the Warhammer 40K, and it's like tabletop is always an afterthought, and it's like a couple of tables on the mezzanine deck, and and if you're lucky, you might get invited. But I'm looking at something where we're going to get a good group of people that are either into or want to be into the OSR stuff. So hopefully we're going to get something like that here, and I'm right near the Smokies, man. So hey, it's
Susie's from Indiana, so there's the
well. I mean, I was born there, so but that's really cool. He's right. Ithaca is in New York. Yeah, so is Utica, and you're right near Utica. No, it's not going to be NoxCon, but Canuga is another one. Yeah.
So
SmokyCon, that's what it's called. Shh, don't tell anybody.
Outside of Jordabud, do you as like Mythmere have plans for more like independent swords and wizardry modules coming out? Because I know you've got like obviously Tomb of the Iron God.
Yeah, that's probably what we're doing for the next Kickstarter, is to pull out some new swords and wizardry modules and some new OSRIC modules. It's just here's a set of 6. Call it 3 and 3, 1 3 for each system. Most people who are backing it will probably buy both sets, because a lot of people switch back and forth pretty much at will between the 2 systems, or can convert on the fly between the 2 systems.
Yeah.
So that's probably what we're doing for the next Kickstarter, which is the reason why I was, with the White Star question, is I think really what we're still trying to do is do the support for the 2 fantasy game systems that we've got, which turned out to be a lot more work to have 2 systems than I thought it would be. We do this not because it's easy, but because we thought it would be easy.
Okay, so Cam has got to jump to. He's got to go get ready for another show in about 20 minutes that he's a co-host on. That's the Sci-Fi Snob. That's the Top Lofty Lounge. And I urge everybody to check it out when you have a chance. But he wanted to ask one more question before he has to depart. So Cam, I'm going to throw it to you.
Okay, thank you. First, Matt, really appreciate you coming on. It's been a pleasure. Looking at our views, everyone is enjoying your appearance here. So thank you very much. But my last question, and it's kind of open-ended, and obviously you won't be held to your answer here, but I'm just curious where you see gaming going with the popularity of the OSR. Of course, it can't match, mega corporations or anything like that. But between old school gaming, modern gaming, and kind of the hybrids, which maybe Shadow Dark is the best example of, where do you think, or would like to see things go. Do you think anyone is going to take predominance, or are they all going to kind of continue together, or just any musings you might have on that?
I think that so the stuff like OSRIC and Swords and Wizardry is going to go up and down in popularity. There'll be there's a long pattern of fashion going on. As people coming in, playing basic, and then they go, so that's going to fluctuate up and down. I think slowly you see an advance in the real old school retro clones. Most of the growth is going to happen in the hybrids and in the mainstream, I think. And the thing is, it may not be the same hybrids that we're seeing right now. I mean, I would call DCC a hybrid. I would call Shadow Dog a hybrid. There's also Cairn. There's Knave. I don't actually know whether Knave is considered a new or old, but whether those survive long term, Pirate Borg, whether those survive long term or not is yet to be seen. But I think that space is going to keep its strength because, once again, I do think that the mainstream publishers have a very strong influence on them from their customers to answer all of the questions, to have rules for everything. And now it's also evolving into the way that it's marketed to people is going to be more and more online type of stuff, more and more pre-digested. That's going to remain popular, or they wouldn't be doing it. So, there's your mainstream, but there's always going to be opposition to that from people who are more creative, want to go their own way, want to see newer systems. Some of those people will drop all the way back to the retro clones. Most of them will probably drop to some hybrid system that's out there. So honestly, I think Kelsey may have been the smartest of us because I think that she's got probably the largest, audience capture for Shadow Dark. And if that stays in there, then you've got a very strong fan community that will be self-perpetuating. And it's all about critical mass. It was really funny. We did a thing at GaryCon where there was a panel, and people were asking, what other person's project would you have been interested in? And I was like, Shadow Dark. It's all about the money. I didn't mean money. What I meant was critical mass. And as soon as it popped out of my mouth, I was like, oh shit, that was the wrong. That did not come out the way I meant it to.
It was funny though. I was there.
It is all, and kind of is all about the money, but what it's really about is because I was looking at, we're actually the big five at this particular table. It was Pirate Borg, Kelsey, Karen, it was the DIY group was not represented there at all. And so I was thinking, why is this? Well, it's all about critical mass, and then boom, out comes the wrong word. But I think that Shadow Dark, or the Shadow Dark suite of games between Shadow Dark and the third-party publishers for Shadow Dark may have created something that has really got legs on it. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, the interesting answer, but I kind of hope that the modern game has seen its highlight, but I'm not sure. I think you're right about the way that they're just, the way that they're doing things. It's going to be very hard to overcome, but I hope that these other remain healthy at least.
Oh, I think that, I wasn't saying that I think either that any part of it is going to die out. It's just that when you have a mainstream that, you view that as an intake valve,
True.
Everyone is going to get the commercialized version first of all of this stuff. It doesn't, and the fact that that's going to stay strong and grow the fastest doesn't mean that the hybrid group and the retroclone group are going to shrink. All it means is that they're not going to grow at the same rate as the mainstream group. So yeah, I know. I think the whole OSR future is looking quite bright.
Excellent. Well, with that, I will again say thank you, and I will dip out, and good luck, everybody.
Good to see you.
All right. We'll see you later, Cam.
Have a good night.
So I put a went ahead and threw a QR code. This is launching in 35 days. This will take you to the notification page. So
yeah, what we would like people to do, if you're watching the show, sold on the idea, want to shower money on me, here's what do. Just go over to here, click the little notify me on launch. You don't have to pay anything. You get the little free comic book, and what it does is it will send you an annoying little email at the time that the campaign launches to tell you now it's time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And you've got let's see. So you wrote it. Oh, I love the heavy metal music there. Yeah, that's my genre, man. Can you tell? But any rate, Bronze Age, Dark Age. You're saying everything about Conan without saying Conan.
Right, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Legally distinct Conan.
Legally distinct, yeah. So Brett Barkley from Dark Horse Comics did the artwork, the cover art.
He's doing the cover art. He's done a lot of our internal illustrations. But he's the one who did the comic, and he's going to be doing the covers and the internal illustrations. Poor Brett, he keeps trying to want to get a social media presence out there, and he just never quite gets around to it. And so he's the quietest, lowest profile artist you'll find out there.
Yeah, is the comic going to actually be in print too?
No, because it's only 6 pages. In fact, it was originally just going to be 2. But when we started breaking the thing out, because it was, and I wasn't even thinking about it as a sales thing. I was just like, for the player guidebook, let's start out with a couple of comic book pages. And so, here's a 1-page spread, page 1, page 2, and that's it. And it's one of those things that sort of got out of my control and ended up being 6 pages long and being used for sales material, which is great sales material, but it wasn't what the plan was.
Hey, stretch goal. Hey, if you hit X, you have a full comic, blah blah blah. But at any rate, well, I've already so it looked like somebody else scanned the QR code, because once I did the QR code thing, and then it pops up whenever somebody scans it, and hopefully people will continue. There's going to be people that are going to be watching this episode later on. Okay. So not everybody lives in the same time zone. It's only going on 4 a.m. over with our friends Dean and Vicky over in the UK. So, but I don't know if there's anybody else got any other questions in the chat, or if anything that
I have another deep cut lore question.
Go ahead.
Wait, Dan. Is anybody in the chat? Do the chat.
That's true. That's true. All right, chat. Anyone?
Oh, here we go. Mac's got one here.
All right.
Will the modules be consecutive or different from each other? And would they be totally thematically / period different, i.e. Bronze Age, Hyperborean-esque, medieval Gothic, Victorian, etc.?
It'll probably be, okay, so here we're not talking about the stuff that's coming out with Jorda, but we're talking about this future Kickstarter that's going to do modules. And the answer is it'll be whatever it is that I can get from freelancers that I think is a good adventure module. I'll probably write a couple of them, but I'll probably do one for each, so mine won't be consecutive. So the answer is it's going to be a mixed bag. They probably won't be sequential, although I am talking to one of the OSRIC guys about doing a 3-module series. So it might be that the OSRIC ones are and the Swords and Wizards ones aren't, but we're not going. I never really go in and try and do too much of the planning for the authors, because usually somebody who's writing a module has an idea that they think is a really good idea and they really want to run with it. And if you're like, let's do something different, then you get something that's weaker than what their passion project of the moment is.
Right.
So, and I'm much more focused on playability and quality than I am about having a coherent catalog of products, which once again, this is where Susie, would like to have more orderliness to the way the company's going.
So is Susie the organizational one, and you're the creative one. Is that how that works?
Not really. I mean, she does layout too. You know, she's been in the industry, you know, working for ChessX and for
wow.
Forge for, you know, 20, 30 years,
Yeah.
longer than I've been in the industry. What it is that we've got certain things where I do the organization and certain things where she does the organization. She knows everything there is to know about logistics, for example. And so if it's got to do with, you know, talking to a printer or talking to the warehouse, you know, she's the one who does that. If it's got to do with, you know, should we do something that's, you know, from 14th century France or 13th century France, you know, that's sort of more in my department of
the historical
tie-ins.
Yeah. Okay. So Silver Smurdunk.
I don't have to ask my question because
I'm getting ready. First comment here. Pestilence at Haleth Vorn is an incredible OSRIC module. Does Jordoba have anything to do with Hirengard? Also, will we ever see a full Hirengard module?
Yeah, probably. Although it's going to be later. What Hirengard is it's one that I did a sort of hex crawl campaign that went out with one of the Swords and Wizardry things, and then so I'm sort of cheating by now going back to Jordoba, which is, you know, something that I had done earlier. But, you know, eventually, you know, yes, we're going to have, you know, Hirengard coming out. It is very likely that we may find a place in Jordoba to say this is where, you know, Hirengard is located. But at the moment, no, we haven't officially merged the two because there's two slightly different feels to them. The thing is, Hirengard was more based for a hex crawl type of thing, whereas Jordoba, it's a really big world. It's more of a travel from here to there kind of campaign. So it's the hexes, you know, are too big in Jordoba for a hex crawl.
So what you're saying is I'm going to need more bookcases.
That's true.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, I kind of figured that, you know, I need to get some. Couple of other questions in here. Is Swords and Wizardry Complete Revised the one to get? So what is the one to get? Because you've got a couple of them up there.
Yeah. Well, for the completely free introduction, there's Swords and Wizardry Core, and what that is it is the first 3 books plus some resources from the first supplement, the Greyhawk supplement. Which is a little bit of a small niche, but if you've got no cash, grab the.
Those are the ones I probably downloaded from drive-thru.
If they were free, those are the ones.
Yeah.
Okay. The one that's got the fullest depth to it is Swords and Wizardry Complete. So I mean, in general, I would say yes, Swords and Wizardry Complete Revised is the version that you want to get because it's got the morale rules. It's got all of the supplemental material that eventually went into OD&D, and more importantly, maybe it's the one that most people are talking about. Unless, if you really want to create I'm only playing with the 3 little books that were in the first OD&D box. Most people call that white box, but unless you're in a historical recreation mode, you know the. Swords and Wizardry Complete Revised, it's got more stuff in it, but it's equally old. It's still back from the 70s. You're still recreating the original version of D&D as it was played. So I would generally tend to recommend Swords and Wizardry Complete Revised.
Okay.
Wrong one, Jeff. We don't need you big.
Honestly, I wish I could do that, but it doesn't let me do that. Let's see here. Okay. That one I want in big end. Restream. Gotta love it.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
This is something we only just did, and Susie did this on the QT, is putting together a couple of bundles so that people can, if people are buying, because this isn't the only one. This you get a discount if you buy the 3 Swords and Wizardry books. All you need is the blue one. The other 2 are extras. and then we've also got one for the source books that you can get Tome of Adventure Design with Tome of World Building with the Nomicon, also with a slight.
I was going to bring those up too, and those I've heard are excellent books to have. Let me see. They are under your regular products.
Adventure
I think,
Design
right?
source books. Scroll up. Yeah. Adventure Design source
Oh,
books.
duh.
There we go.
Yeah, that is.
Source books. There we go. And yes, so I've heard some great things about all three of these books. So I will probably be adding those to my list.
They're worth it.
I love books about how to come up with the gritty details. I went in all in on the Gary Gygax stuff that the trolls are doing. I can't wait to have 1,001 different pole arms.
If Gary wrote it and it addresses the topic of pole arms, you'll have a lot of choices.
Yeah.
And then my running gag with the trolls is I because they're talking about there's like 100 different kinds of spoons. I said, how about the spork? I said we got to have a spork. So sporks is my thing. I want sporks in there.
The Bohemian ear spork.
Well, yeah, but hey. So what is the Nomicon? What is that versus Adventure Design? That's pretty self-explanatory, and world building is pretty explanatory. If people were to get one of these three, if they couldn't get all three of them, which one would be the best way to go?
Tome of Adventure Design.
Okay.
I'm looking to see if I've got a copy of it here on the thing with me. Because those look a lot thinner than they actually are in Susan's thing. But
those are. I'm sure those were marketing type.
Yeah, the most people who write professionally, and this has really kind of surprised me, but this is from Kelsey as well. Almost everybody who writes adventures professionally has a copy of this on their desk. It is a thick book.
Oh yeah. I love that.
So, and it's soup to nuts, everything from it's different starting points for doing an adventure, and I will say it's very granular. So it's like
hold that up again so that people can see it again on
that's what it looks like. It's a thick book.
That's like an encyclopedia like I had back in the day. One of the letters.
Yeah, well, they're all like that.
Are they? Yeah.
So by contrast, here's one of the Swords and Wizardry books. Much thinner.
Okay.
Trying to keep it. There we go. So the Swords and Wizardry books are much thinner. That's why they're cheaper.
Okay.
But then, here's the Nomicon. Right there. It's about the same thickness, but definitely, the one that you want if you're writing adventures is the Tome of Adventure Design, and it's got it's got like different starting points. It's got stuff about maps. It's got fairly comprehensive lists of all kinds of stuff. It's got prompts up and down the side that so that's the one. And then the second one that I would get really depends on how good you are at world building, because if you really hit a brick wall on world building, then get world building. But actually, and strangely, the Nomicon is turning out to be super popular among people who are doing that, because it's got it's not historical names. It's how to generate a bunch of names that all sound like they're from ancient Greece, or sound like they're from the continental Celts, or sound like they're from the Brythonic Celts, or sound like high metallic is one of the ones, as opposed to dark metallic, as opposed to sounding like it's from Cthulhu, which we call Elder Weirdish. And
Elder Weird, yeah, that's kind of a cool.
So they're groups in that way, because it originally was going to be part of the Tome of World Building, but then it just got too big, so we had to split it off into another book. But it's the problem of when you're filling in names of every town, every village, or what it is in your map. If you're using like an online naming generator, they all sound different, like they're from different places. And then your next kingdom over has exactly that same mix of everything sounding different, whereas this one, everything sounds like it fits together. It sounds like it's from the same culture.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about that.
The Namacon's amazing.
Yeah,
because like if you have like an area or a faction or like a custom like race or ancestry or something, you can make everything sound like it belongs together, which is awesome.
Sorry, that's my dog, and he may continue barking like that the whole time. So
that's all right. That's all right. Dreg says if you're going to get Swords and Wizardry CR, also get Tomb of World Building and Knock Spell 4. So he mentioned Knock Spell. There's 6 of them that I saw. Is it still going on, or is it on hiatus?
No,
or
that's long dead.
Okay.
It is too much work to edit and do a magazine on a rotating basis for me to keep trying to come out with things or not. So for that, if you want the experience of getting the magazine, Knock Spell is the one. Not Knock Spell. Fight On is the one that you want to get, because Fight On.
Oh, okay. I have Fight On. So you contribute to Fight On too, then, on every now and again.
I probably did at some point, but I'm just saying that that Fight On is off and running and going, and it's it's just as good as Knock Spell, or I guess Knock, because they called me and asked me if they could do Knock. So there's that one's out there, but I don't think it comes out as frequently. So, but no, Knock Spell, that's just it's great articles, awesome shit, but it's no longer being produced, so you've got to go back and buy the old stuff.
Okay. Let's see here. And Drake said, learn more from the Tome of World Building than he learned from the AD&D First Edition DMG or any equivalent.
Great. Thank you very much.
So, let's see. Any other comments?
Yeah, getting pretty close to our 2-hour mark, so we're right over it.
Yeah, we're just about at the line. And we would keep on going on and on forever, because that's the way Dan and I are. We have, but anything that you'd like to end up with and say to the people out there?
Oh, I don't know. Game On is good. The DIY stuff is what's keeping everybody together. So keep supporting. If somebody posts up here's a PDF of my little dungeon that I just made, hit like, keep them, knowing that we're reading their stuff and appreciating their stuff, because it's the DIY is the beating heart of the old school Renaissance, or the old school rules, or whatever.
Yeah. So the debate rages on there with that one, because that's actually perfectly fine, because I think everybody's got their own little thing, and if we'd appreciate it if you guys like and subscribe. I do have a copy of Fight On. I did get one of the recent ones, so I think I might be an issue behind now, but I was really impressed with it, so I would definitely order it again. It's well worth the money. It's not like a thin little magazine like back in the day you used to get. It's something that you can put on the shelf and go back and look at it for years. So,
for those curious, Fight On is a magazine that Ignatius Umlaut puts out. You can buy the pods on Lulu and the PDFs on DTRPG, and then Knock is by the Merry Mushman, which is also great fun. So.
Okay. Well, hey, we'll have to get those guys on there.
They're in France, so you would have to change your broadcast time.
I mean, France, the UK, Dean comes on,
Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Well, Dean has ulterior motives, because, he loves being on the Babylon 5 thing too. So
right. He also doesn't sleep. Other people do.
He is, no, he takes nap breaks, I think. I don't understand. Well, I do understand. That's the sad thing, because I'm the same way. I mowed the grass today and then took a nap, woke up, and I'm like, oh, I need to run to the store before the stream. So, Matt, it's been great having you. We really appreciate. I'm glad you hope to get to meet you in person soon at one of these upcoming events. And good luck on the Kickstarter. Maybe we'll check back in with you at some point when you launch it or shortly after while it's going on, and hopefully we'll get some folks here. We can talk all about Jordoba. I'm sure Dan would love that.
Yes.
He's so, and apparently, there is a comic book. There is a comic book. It's you can get it for free if you follow the QR code and click the link. It'll take you there, and there's a little. What is it? 6 pages, I think. It's a short.
It's only 3 right
4.
now. It's like 8 pages with sales
Right.
material in there. But the easiest way to get it is to just even if you're not going to back the Kickstarter, just hit the you are, and it'll give you a link to get there on drive-through.
Yep, and it just dropped the links right there. So if you go to the backer kit, and you're doing backer kit, not Kickstarter.
It is backer kit, yes.
I you know what I tell you, I want to get the guys from backer kit on at some point. One of the guys on there, because I as a consumer really love the backer kit guys. I think they've done a great job. We know that Goodman and the Trolls have both embraced them.
Let me find the email address for the guy that we work with at backer kit, and then I'll
I'll get you my email. We can talk after.
I'll send you his, because I bet because he does he's technically sales, so he'd probably be happy to be on that.
Yeah.
As
long as he's not afraid of being on stream. So, all right. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and roll the credits if you don't mind sticking around for a few minutes after, and we'll kind of wrap up after that. And thank you, everybody. Be sure to like, subscribe. Next week, Cam is going to have Dean on. I and Dan are both going to be at North Texas next Sunday, but he is going to have Dean on and Vicky talking about Untold Destiny, which is their game system that's coming out. So tune in for that one. I got some work to get it for him ready to run. He's got full rights now to I gave him keys to the car. I don't know, man. It's
good luck, Cam.
Like the teenager, nervous dad here. All right. Any rate, everybody take care. Thanks. And,
have a good night, all.
We'll throw the credits and stick around just for a minute, Matt.